Hi, welcome back to Future Fast. And once again, we have Srikanth with us. He's the founder of Bengaluru NavaNirmana party. And for those of you who have missed the first two part of the conversation, please go back, look up the first two part. In the first part, he shares his journey up to why and how he got started with this political party. And second part, obviously, we discuss about how he is working towards building this party and what are the challenges he sees from his perspective on building a party and what it takes for even keeping people together. It's a very interesting conversation. So please go and listen to it. And in this conversation, we are, I don't know what we're going to get from Srikanth from our future. So which obviously he loves to talk about. So that's where we are going to jump into it. Srikanth, welcome back to Future Fast. And once again, thank you for making time to be here with us.
Absolutely a pleasure, Nanju.
So before I ask you about your take on future, I was just thinking, what were the three most essential things 20 years ago that you would carry or be with you the moment you leave home for your work? I assume 20 years ago you had started working, right? So if you were to leave home, no matter what you leave, the three essential things you would carry with, what were they?
Well, there are three things that I generally talk about. Earlier and now. Earlier, I was not probably able to articulate it, but the more I look at it, I'm very clear about those three. In fact, I call those IPC.
Okay.
That holds good for anything that we do in life. I think I might have talked about IPC in the previous session.
You did mention IPC, yeah.
Yeah. So to me, that defines my life as well. If you have integrity, which is the I part of it, and you are passionate about what you are doing, that is, there is a purpose behind it, you are enjoying it when you are doing it, and there is a clear objective that you want to accomplish, and hence you are doing it with passion, and you develop a good level of competence in doing that. Right. And very often you don't start with competence in terms of the hard competence, you acquire it, but as long as you have the attitude to develop that competence, that is what defines success in any field that we are in. Right. So for me, anything that I do, I would definitely like to win, but even more importantly, win by doing the right things. For me, IPC pretty much defines everything that I've been doing and everything that I would like to continue doing for the future as
well. Well, I want to dig on what physical things, something like maybe a watch. Perhaps today you don't leave home without a phone. So physically, what were they, those three things? Because obviously mobile phone was not, it was there 20 years ago. I mean, I did have, but I don't know, it was not as important because so few people had mobile phones those days, right? So what were those three things you would not leave home with, without?
Actually, no, when I look at it, I have not given much importance or attention to the physical things. See, earlier,
maybe a book and a pen, a notebook and a pen.
That's what I'm saying. When I started my career, we used to start with carrying a bag in which, you'll probably have a notebook to take notes, pen, etc. Then we all started carrying laptop to our place of work and back home. Right. And these days, right now, I've stepped out. I'm doing meetings and all of that. The phone is more than good enough to do that. So I can only say how life has evolved from the bag with the notebook, pen, and other accessories that we used to have to the laptop now. Physically, there's nothing that I have attached relevance to, or I can think of.
Just pushing it 20 years from now, what do you think it will be?
Wow, you are getting into territory which I have no clue about. Right? I've been very bad at seeing how technology evolves, so I would rather stay away from that. Right? I think you should talk to the tech experts or people who have a better orientation on that side to talk about that. I don't think I am the right person to talk about how the physical manifestations of what we are doing or how it's going to evolve. I have absolutely no clue. Let me be very honest about it.
Okay, maybe now just changing our track perhaps into politics. See, 20 years ago, obviously politics meant newspapers and reaching out to people. In fact, it so much mattered about reaching people was through those badges. When I grew up, when we were kids, parties would give badges, right? I mean, we used to fight for those badges to be wearing. And I don't see those things now, right? I mean, those badges are past. So the engagement has moved a lot digital. So how do you see the engagement of your community from a political party, one who runs a political party, to a politician, to your voters? How do you see that is going to change?
Oh, that part I can definitely answer, and you're right, absolutely on that, Nanju. The whole engagement, and it's not just about politics, actually, various spheres of life. Whatever used to be online, or rather, whatever used to be offline engagements, not all of them, but a good chunk of them have moved online today. So, when I am building the party, also, there are certain things that we have to do offline. For example, we do a cleanup drive, or when we engage on civic issues, we go and meet people on the ground, etc. But then we follow that up with digital engagement through social media, through WhatsApp. That's a great place to engage with people on a consistent basis. So today, to run an election campaign, for example, while you will need to do one or two door-to-doors, you can actually catch those same people subsequently on digital channels and stay engaged with them and do a lot of communication with them through that. And people are quite comfortable with that as well. So today we have a situation where people are very happy to consume a lot online. So the way I look at it is, you start with a physical engagement to build the connect. Then you start having Zoom meetings like we are doing now, or G Meets, etc., to continue the engagement. And then you have these WhatsApp groups, social media channels, where regular communication about what we are doing, how we need to engage on, etc. All of that can be captured through that. So that's a sequencing that I talk about, that I feel it's going to evolve to. I would definitely say that it will be a good mix of both online and offline. There is a tendency for people to go to extremes. Some people say that online there's nothing possible. That's what people held as a view, including me a few years back. And there are people who say that everything will move online. The truth lies somewhere in between. A good mix of both is what will ultimately help define. You can't do away with the offline connect part of it. And that's my personal view. It could be only 20-30% of the overall engagement, but it will still play a reasonably significant role in building the connect with the, call it, the voter base or the stakeholders.
So we recently had elections and also the results. So there must have been some approach that you would have had in terms of how you want to approach the campaign and what kind of an outcome that you could perhaps achieve or get. And post this recent Lok Sabha elections, because most people are surprised with the outcome. So post this outcome and the results, do you think that you are having to change the way you are approaching, or if you think you have to look at it a little differently, what would be those areas that you would make those changes in with the new learnings, if we can look at it that way?
No, I don't think there's any new learning for me. I've always fundamentally believed that by and large, the electorate is smart. Mm-hmm. People use their discretion to vote in different ways for different people and in different elections. Even earlier, if you look at it, in 2019 Lok Sabha elections, in Odisha, if you look at it, BJP won a fair bit in the MP elections, whereas BJD won more seats in the assembly election. Interestingly, people are going and voting twice, one for the MLA and one for the MP at the same time in two different EVMs. People have the discretion and the judgment to say that for the MLA election, I'll vote for a BJD candidate, and for the MP election, I'll vote for a BJP candidate. And you look at a place like Delhi, in the MP elections, they vote overwhelmingly in favor of BJP, and in the MLA elections, they vote overwhelmingly in favor of AAP. and these are just about a year apart. So I've always felt that the electorate, the people who are voting, they're smart. Of course, people can go wrong at times. Once in a while, they might make mistakes, but it's not up to us to determine whether they're making a
No,
mistake
but
or not. They go
Odisha,
by.
it changed, right? Both Lok Sabha and Assembly, they went with
True,
BJP this time.
true, but then that's what people wanted. But the point I'm making is, it's not like people just vote randomly or blindly. People are very specific, very clear about what they want to vote for. This time, they feel that both at the central level and state level, we want BJP, and then they've gone and voted for BJP there. And in the
Oh,
same
well,
way, UP. No, the
correct,
point
but
I'm making is very different, Nanju. Without getting into the specifics, what I'm saying is that there are enough and more occasions where people vote in a particular way during a particular election and people vote in a different way during another election, which goes to show the maturity of the electorate, not to just go on blindly. It's very often people have come and told me when I go and try to do a campaign, they say, hey, you don't understand. In this apartment complex, all are BJP supporters. There is nothing like a BJP supporter. Yes, there could be some who could be diehards who will vote for a BJP in all the elections. But by and large, the larger segment of the people, they vote based on the issues that they see. They vote based on the people that they see. They are very, very smart about how they make their choices. So to generalize and say that, oh, these are all people who will vote only for Congress, these are all people who will vote only for BJP, if that is the case, election results won't keep changing as well. And it won't explain how the same voter votes for a BJP here and votes for a BJD here. That is the point I was making. So from that perspective, I think this time people have not voted for BJP as much as they voted in the previous elections, which means there is clearly a sense that they
oh,
want
well,
something different from the
incidentally, the
BJP government.
vote percentage, what I saw, seems to be higher than what they have got in the past. Obviously, voters had also increased,
Yeah.
but they have got more votes where they have won. But obviously, they have lost many
In
places
UP,
where they
for
have.
example, UP, Maharashtra, and all their vote share has come down.
Correct.
That's the
So,
thing. We can't look at it in a generic context across the country. They obviously would have made big gains in Tamil Nadu without winning a seat. They would have made big gains in Andhra and so on. But the point I'm making is, in UP, people are saying, irrespective of what you have done, we are not happy with your performance. We want to now start voting for alternatives. In Maharashtra,
so does this give you confidence that people will start differentiating understanding to start with, and then
what
able
I'm
to
saying, Nanju,
differentiate
is
MP, MLA, and a corporator?
what I'm saying, Nanju, is I didn't need this election to tell me that. Historically, there are enough instances which I've seen where people vote very differently. So that's why I'm saying nothing has changed for me. If at all anything, it has reinforced that point that the electorate, by and large, there are some diehards of every party, irrespective of who's the candidate, irrespective of what the issues are, they'll keep voting for their party. But that's only a small segment of the people. The rest of the electorate, they're all very, I would say, very smart and very discerning in what they are looking for. And when I talk to people also, the so-called BJP supporters that people have told me, and I said, why don't you reach out to people with the BNP message? They said, hey, I'm very surprised. They seem to be wanting to support us. And I said, exactly the point. Just because somebody has voted for a BJP in the MP election doesn't mean that they're going to vote for BJP in the MLA election. Forget about the BBMP election. There's no guarantee that they'll vote for them in the MLA election itself. So, if they find a message that resonates with them, if they find people that they can relate to, if they find something that they feel is different from what somebody else is offering, I'm very confident that a good chunk of them will accordingly vote. And hence, it's up to us. It's up to parties like BNP to reach out to people, communicate that message, ensure that they understand the difference, and ultimately get a good chunk of them to come out and vote in our favor. So there is nothing different for me that I've learned in this election at all. Or I would say it's only reinforced the fundamental beliefs that I've had about the smartness of the electorate, about the discerning nature of the electorate.
Well, so how do you see the future evolving with this? I mean, do you see that First of all, I don't know, a lot of people don't really care that Economist ranks India as a, uh, I don't know, I don't remember the particular term, but not a pure democracy, right? It's a false democracy or something in between, right? It's not a pure democracy. And of course, for last 5, 6 years, or rather since Donald Trump came in, USA has also been added under that classification. So rather, India shares that space in their list along with the USA. First of all, many people just outrightly refuse to accept it. Where do you stand, and where do you think that will change? Or do you think we don't have to worry about it, but we are a mature democracy?
These are all topics I typically stay away from a BNP perspective, because it's not anything to do with the municipal or city level. But at an individual level, I can communicate this much. I don't care what a USA tells me, or any other magazine or any other country tells me. For me, the electorate of India, the citizens of India, and the democracy that we have in India, I will never ever doubt the ability of the Indian citizenry to protect our democracy, to save our democracy at any point of time. I think the whole discussions around democracy is under threat now, or this, I don't think there is any merit to any of that. I'm not a BJP supporter, I'm not a Congress supporter, I'm not any supporter. I'm a fundamental believer in the power of Indian citizens, the Indian electorate, and the Indian democracy. This civilization has survived for thousands of years now, and it has still retained its fundamental essence. So from time to time, there will be issues that come up, things that will happen, but the fundamental resilience of the electorate and the power of the citizenry and our democracy will always be utmost and supreme to anything else. And I firmly believe that our people will take care of our democracy. So I don't care who says anything. For me, it's the trust and the faith that I have in the Indian citizenry, its resilience, its power, and as I said earlier, the discerning approach and the smartness of the electorate that will ensure that this country and this democracy is always protected with its fundamental ethos.
So what excites you most about the future? Maybe not the immediate future, because immediate future, perhaps you're looking at yourself with BNP having at least 30 seats. That's the conversation we had in our last part. But little ahead, maybe 10 years from now, you also saw yourself as a mayor. So can we jump to 15 years ahead?
So let me actually articulate something different. Let's, I wanting to become the mayor, or I wanting to get at least 25 seats in the first election. Those are all, let's say, targets or outcomes that we are talking of. I would say at a fundamental level, the biggest thing about the future that I'm trying to shape is the municipal governance. I firmly believe that if the Indian cities, not just Bengaluru, any Indian city, and it could be tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, or a metro, if they have to shape up to the potential that each city has, and overall as a country that we have, municipal governance and municipal government is the way to go.
No, but for that, BNP has to succeed, right? BNP has to succeed.
We will succeed. I'll shortly come to it. We will come to it. Obviously, that's why I'm here. But what I'm saying is, the future, I firmly believe, is going to be that of the municipal governments. Not in the immediate future, but the long-term future. And if our cities have to become the best cities in the world, that's the only way to go. There are two aspects to it. One is the macro aspect and one is the micro aspect. At both levels, there is a fundamental systemic deficiency or systemic gaps that we have. At a macro level, if we were to look at the powers that are decentralized or devolved to the municipalities, they are not done as per what is mandated in the Indian Constitution. The Indian Constitution makes it very clear that the municipal bodies should act like bodies of self-government. And what that means is the state governments need to completely decentralize and devolve powers. And none of the states have actually done that. So one of my things that I'll be working on over the long term is ensuring that there is more decentralization and devolution of powers to the municipalities, including the powers and the functions of the mayor, the elected representatives, and how they are able to execute with full power and authority as enshrined in the Indian
term
Constitution.
itself is the biggest limiting factor, right? I mean, term of a mayor in Bangalore.
Yeah, earlier it was 1 year, but with pressure, it's now become 2.5 years. And it's only
Is
a
that
question of
sufficient, you
time
think?
before 5 years. We'll over a period of time. See, 2.5 is better than 1. 5 is obviously better than 2.5. We will get there. See, all the changes that we want to bring about, it can't happen overnight. We are on the path. Ultimately, a mayor should have 5-year term, just like a CM or a PM should have. There's no two ways about it. But we are still not there. Those are all the things that we will be fighting for. So at the macro level, those are things that I will definitely be fighting for. It will take some time to bring about that change, but I'm committed to that. So that's number one. At the micro level, the biggest problem that we have is there is no citizen participation, accountability, and transparency. That is something, and that more than the accountability and transparency, which I'm very confident that we can work on, citizen participation is very, very important. So one of the fundamental things that I'm doing through BNP is I'm reaching out to more and more citizens, getting them onboarded into BNP, getting them to become part of our area sabhas, getting them to understand what municipal governance is all about, getting them to understand how they can play a role without having to spend too much of time, and getting them aware that they can accomplish a lot through their participation by just spending a little bit of their time, provided we do it collectively, systematically, and in a way where we multiply the power of many people coming together. And if you're able to do this over the next few years, the municipal government will become very, very strong, will become very transparent and accountable. And through that, we can bring about the changes that we need at the city level to make Bengaluru the best city in the world, and more of our cities in India as some of the best cities in the world. As part of that, of course, I want to win at least 25 wards in the first election, and hopefully 150 wards by the time the next election comes, etc. But those are means of getting there. What I'm talking about is when we get there, I'm telling you what we want to do.
Right. Well, do you see a point in time in future where we will perhaps hire a professional to run a city as a CEO? Do you first of all, do you think it is necessary to bring in better accountability and outcome?
We already have a chief commissioner. A chief commissioner is a paid employee, is an IAS officer. So that so-called role of CEO that you're talking of already exists. What we need is
they being a bureaucrat with their performance tied down to many a times allegiances to the other powers and power centers. In fact, we have seen we've had a commissioner of city being dictated, or rather, what do you call it? There were certain industries who actually pressured the government to bring in a particular person, a bureaucrat, as the commissioner of the city. And every time the government changed, they replaced that person, and the lobby made sure that the same person is brought in. I mean, which is very unique. Which is I at least in my lifetime, I don't think I remember coming across something like this, where 3 different governments who at every election even made one of their election agenda was that this is corrupt practice that's happening. One of the things we will do is to replace this very position with another person. And then the same party, the same people who made such statements were whatever the forces that forced them to bring the very same person to run BBMP, right? Run the city municipality, which is amazing.
Nanju, I think there are some fundamental misconceptions that we have. And I think these are all a lot of generalizations and simplistic representations that happen. The state government, nobody thinks of the chief secretary. There is a role called as a chief secretary.
Correct.
we never worry about how the chief secretary performs. The chief secretary is a political appointee and keeps changing regularly. And the chief secretary is the one who is supposed to actually run the state. The MLAs and the state government is only a legislative body. The chief secretary, along with the various additional chief secretaries and the bureaucracy that exists, they are the ones who are supposed to execute whatever is decided by the legislative body, which is the Legislative Assembly. The BBMP is nothing different. You have an elected council which comprises the corporators,
But
and they decide how the
elected
budget
council
is
does
spent.
not decide who the commissioner will be, right?
That's okay. Now you look at it this way: even a chief secretary. Let's assume that a chief secretary is appointed by somebody else.
Okay,
Yeah,
maybe
you
I'll
talked about
just
the term of the
change the
mayor.
question. Do
No,
you think
hold on.
it should be
What
the
I'm saying
elected
is,
council's responsibility to pick the commissioner?
I agree with you, but what I'm saying is, it doesn't make a big difference. Somewhere
It should, right?
we worry. Should we have a chief commissioner who should be appointed by the BBMP council? Absolutely yes, Nanju. In the current scheme of things,
Because without
does it
that,
make
you
a
don't have the power, right?
no? That's where you're no, Nanju. I have a fundamentally different view on that. You tell me this: the BBMP council decides every single project that is to be executed. The chief commissioner has, let's say, his discretionary budget of about 25 crores out of the 10,000 crores. So he can decide that I want out of this 25 crores, I'm going to do these projects. So you leave the 25 crores.
Oh,
The
it's not
rest
just
of the
about budget, right? From a point of
hold on,
execution.
you let me complete on this.
Yeah.
The primary role of the chief commissioner is to ensure that all the works are happening properly. Right? Now, what works are to happen, it cannot be decided by the chief commissioner. How they have to be executed, yes, chief commissioner has a role to play. You tell me this, how is this different from the role of a chief secretary? It's exactly the same. The only difference is the chief secretary is appointed by the CM and the ruling party. Here, it's not the case. But chief secretaries, you look at it, the terms of the chief secretaries are 6 months, 1 year. What can they do in that 6 months, 1 year? Ultimately, they run a process and ensure that it's done properly. I fundamentally believe that in the case of a BBMP, the role of the chief commissioner is very limited. I would rather be more worried about the AEs, AEs at the ward level.
Mm-hmm.
If there are good AEs and AEs who are there at the ward level, they are the ones who would ultimately get the works approved at the ward level executed. And there, if citizens get involved and work along with the AEs and AEs, which we are already doing, for example, through BNP, we are actually able to get a lot of work done, Nanju. BNP is not even in power. We don't have any influence on anything. Through our area sabhas, we have raised more than 500 issues, and more than 50% of those are getting resolved on a consistent basis. How is that happening? When we engage with officials do not have the kind of power that we think they have.
Oh, well, see, in the last 4-5 years, there is no councilism, right? There is no.
That's a different issue. Should the elected council be in place?
That is where perhaps it is necessary to work with this.
But that's a different issue altogether. Should the elected council be in place? Absolutely. But is the city going to be held hostage by a chief commissioner? I don't think so at all. The role of the chief commissioner, in my view, is overemphasized or exaggerated. The chief commissioner has an important role to play.
There is another argument. Recently, I was chatting with some other friend who was telling, I made a point that we have not even had BBMP election and no big party is actually pushing for it. And he said, don't you think it is a good enough reason to drop that whole thing? Because it's just another corruption bucket we open up for a few more individuals to take money out of the system. So probably it is better off run by bureaucrats without council. So this is
okay.
Statement.
Then that way,
so what do you think?
That way, why have a sure, absolutely, that's a great idea. Then let's ask the state government, where there have been allegations of corruption on both BJP and Congress. Let that be taken over by the central government. And at the central government level, whether it was Congress or now BJP, there have been a lot of allegations of corruption. Let's hand it over to the United Nations and let United Nations run India. What kind of illogical arguments are these? If there is corruption in any elected body, we try to get a better set of people elected. That holds good exactly the same for central government, state government, or a city government, or a panchayat. The solution to corruption is not by handing it over to somebody else. The solution is to get better people elected. That's the whole nature of the electoral democracy. But you tell me this, we never talk about, have there been allegations of corruption against both BJP and Congress at the state government level? In fact, let me ask you a counter question, Nanju. Do we think the state government of Karnataka in the last many years, whether it is run by BJP or Congress or JDS, has there been corruption?
Always, all the time.
Always? What do? Should we hand it over to the central government or should we hand it over to the bureaucrats? Why doesn't anybody talk about handing over the state government to the bureaucrats? In the same way,
No. Only
all
thing
these
is
2G
that
scams,
there was no election and people were like, what's the difference? It's the same thing. Only thing is there is less corruption.
but tell me
That
this,
was the
Nanju,
statement
the
and
same thing. So let's hand it over to bureaucrats at the central and state government level. You will find that there's no change that happens there also. That's not an argument to say that, just because a different system also gives the same results, because of something else, doesn't mean that you do fundamentally wrong things. The fundamental concept of electoral democracy is that if you elect somebody and if they don't do a good job, they'll be replaced by somebody else. And that fear and that pressure will have to force them to work better. That's the whole logic.
Also, correct. But also, how do you ensure that we cannot have this 4-5 year holidays for even election? I mean, this is ridiculous.
That's again a different
right?
issue, Nanju. That's a different issue.
How do you make sure of that? I mean, you are in that space now.
Nanju, we have to come back. As in, this is the topic. We've been fighting a case in the Supreme Court as well.
Oh, you are?
There are layers within layers. There are different strategies I'm working on also to see how best we can prevent that. We will cover that if required in a separate session. That's a deep topic by itself. Should elections in the municipality happen on time? Absolutely yes. Should the mayor have a longer term? Absolutely yes. Should the chief commissioner be appointed by the mayor or by the elected BBMP council? Absolutely yes. But are these showstoppers?
You should have a vote in. You should have a say in it. If not, if you should directly appoint.
Sure, but I think we the people are responsible. You never see these things happening in the state government or central government because we are a lot more aware about that. And if any party does any hanky-panky at the state government or central government level, they have the fear that the electoral class will decimate their political career. So they will not dare do it. Municipal government level, none of us are aware. And hence, that is being taken advantage of and they do all the hanky-panky. So I think it has to be changed over a period of time by more and more informed and aware citizenry as well. But these are all different points altogether, Ranju. I think there are different points here. There are multiple levels and layers of misgovernance that's happening at the BBMP level. And we have to look at each one of them separately. The point I'm making is, let me put it in very simple terms. If we have even only one BNP corporator out of 225 in only one ward, let's say we have no say in the chief commissioner, and let's say the elected party or the ruling class in the BBMP is working against the BNP corporator and trying to allocate less funds to our ward, I don't care. And let's say the chief commissioner is not willing to listen to us, I don't care. What I'm saying is, even with all of that, we can actually get a lot of work done. What more do we need? How does it matter to me what is the term of the mayor? How does it matter to me whether the chief commissioner is appointed by, let's say, the council or the state government, or any of the other issues, right? Am I saying that those are all not important? Those are important, but they impact at a different level altogether. At the grassroots level, there are a lot of things that can be done. Or there was somebody else who came back and said, hey, we pay a lot in taxes, but most of it doesn't come back to Bengaluru. Is it an important point? It's absolutely an important point. Is it a showstopper? It's not a showstopper. You are worried about, see, today BBMP spends about 10,000 crores for the city. Effectively, the person who was talking to me was worried about why is another 10,000 crores not coming in. My point is, I'm not worried about the 10,000 crores that's not coming in. I'm worried about the 10,000 crores that's already come in, but is getting abused and misspent.
Right.
So first, I would rather ensure that this 10,000 crores gets spent properly. Or at the ward level, there is 100 to 200 crore budget that's coming in. I would rather focus on first getting that right than worrying about the big picture. We will fight on the big picture also. Holding elections in time, having a proper mayoral term, devolution of powers to the BBMP council, the chief commissioner being appointed by the mayor or by the BBMP council, all of that we'll fight on. But those are all not showstoppers, is all that I'm saying.
Right. Another thing is that more than 50% of the councillors, the corporators, are not even graduates historically.
That's okay.
So, do you think that will change going forward?
I don't know. That's up to the electorate.
No,
And
you
that's,
as a
and
so
that's the
is that
change that we're trying to bring. I'm trying to bring a new class of people. And by the way,
so
there is one
BNP will
person
not
in.
accept somebody who's the 10th standard or 12th standard pass,
No,
let's say?
we will absolutely accept for me, education is not the criterion
Okay.
or the only criterion. It's a very important criterion. In BNP, we've had one person who has done a fabulous job in solid waste management. He's an uneducated person. Now, as long as the body of the work that the person has done, the integrity, passion, and competence that he's showing is good enough, I don't care whether the person is educated or not. Having said that, it's very likely that an educated person will do a much better job than an uneducated person. But then that's not the criteria or the only criterion by which I am going to go with. For me, I will go back to the same thing. I need the person to have integrity. I need to have a person to have passion, and I need that person to have the competence. And by competence, I mean the ability to learn, understand, and hence bring in those traits to build a better city and better. As long as those three principles are satisfied, I don't care whether it's a male or a female. I don't care whether the person is an elderly person or a youth. I don't care whether the person is an educated person or an uneducated
Also,
person.
third gender?
Third gender, absolutely. Right? Any gender, any caste, any religion, any social strata, any age, or any education profile, 10th standard, 12th standard, graduate, postgraduate, PhD, it doesn't matter.
Shouldn't age matter considering more than 50% are below 35?
I'm saying, you tell me this, if there's a person who's showing lot better competence at the age of 70.
60% are more than 40.
So I'm saying, if we do a good job, at least in BNP, we have a good mix of youngsters, middle-aged people, and senior citizens. I'm saying that I don't care what the age of the person is. To me, whether it's a 21-year-old person, which is the minimum threshold for anybody to contest as a corporator, or a 100-year-old person. By the way, in Chennai, there's a lady called Kamakshi Patti. I'm not sure whether you've heard. She's the oldest ever contestant in this country in any election. She's 95 years old. You should come and meet her once. I've done a interview with her also. The energy that she has at 95, going and meeting officials, getting things done, and the passion that she brings to the table, the competence that she brings to the table is phenomenal. And if she's going to contest the elections, and if she says, Srikanth, I would like to contest as a corporator in Bengaluru, I would put a red carpet to her, welcome her, and say, please contest from here. In the same way, there are a couple of 21 years old and quite a few people in our party who are in their 20s who are going to contest. So what I'm saying is we should not put artificial restrictions or barricades. We should look at the criteria of whether the person has integrity, whether the person has passion to get things done, whether the person has the competence to learn and get things done. If that is there, I'm repeating, age, gender, caste, religion, social strata, education profile, experience profile in terms of corporate experience or political experience.
What about the nepotism in politics in future? Will it also have? In fact, I don't want to name one of the senior politicians in the opposition was questioned about nepotism because he himself is a third or fourth generation in the hierarchy, and he said that this is how India. He chose to give examples, and incidentally, even BJP, I think 40 candidates or 40%, I don't remember. There's a lot of them who are actually the children or the family members of past MPs. So
again, my response is exactly the same.
Do you think it's the way India works? I mean, do you agree with that statement? India works on nepotism?
Yeah, why? I don't know why we keep it at an India level. You go to the US.
Everywhere.
Absolutely. Have you heard of George Bush Senior and George Bush Junior? Nobody talked about nepotism there. Ultimately, the people's will. If people believe that a particular candidate is good, they will vote for that candidate.
So
now you look at Rahul Gandhi. Let's take a simple example of Rahul Gandhi.
It was him. It was him. He made the statement that India works like this.
I don't think India, as in, it's the party structures that work that way. A BJP still at a larger level, they don't have that much of family, this thing at the top level, like Congress has. Right? But I'm saying ultimately it's the will of the people. The same Rahul Gandhi, people had no faith. The same Rahul Gandhi, people had no faith when he was talking utter rubbish and nonsense a few years back. And he has matured over a period of time. He has shown the ability to talk lot better stuff, and he has shown the ability to connect better, and that's still translating into more number of seats that's coming to his party because of him. But then he still hasn't gotten that many number of seats as you'd want from him. Who knows? He becomes better and better. People will support. So again, I'm a fundamental believer in the power of the democracy. People are smart. The same Rahul Gandhi, it doesn't matter whether he's a second generation, third generation, fourth generation, whatever generation. When people find him to be good, people will vote. When they find him to be better, even more people will vote. And if they find him to be bad, a lot of people will vote against him. In fact, I would say he's a classic case of where, 10 years back or even 5 years back, he didn't get too much of support. And today he's getting a lot more support. And it shows how he's progressing. Now, is that the best way for Congress to evolve? That's up to Congress. Who knows? If they had gotten a better candidate and who knows, they could have won the 2014 and 2019 elections as well. But that's up to them. Ultimately, as far as people are concerned, I will never place any artificial restrictions. I will never say that, everybody should be from a non-political or a non-dynastic background, or everybody should be from that background. We should let people decide. And at BNP, what I would want to do is, I would want to keep listening to what people are saying and calibrate it accordingly to ensure that this party is truly a people's party. That is the main thing. So no artificial restrictions at all, Nanju. No caste, no gender, no religion, no age, no education profile, no experience profile, no dynasty, non-dynasty, etc. Right? I think we should let the process, we should set the process and let the system evolve. The more robust the system and the process, and the more faith we have in the power of the electorate to decide what is good for them, things will be in good shape over a period of time.
Your take on future, where do you see this?
As I said, there's one future that I want to completely work on, craft, shape, and possibly create. And that's the future of the municipal governments in this country, where a municipal government becomes a lot more powerful. Citizens are involved in the
decentralized, lot more decentralized.
That's what I'm saying. Citizens being involved in the municipal government, citizens being empowered, setting up systems and processes where people are not just aware about their rights, people can take part in that process, even influence that process. And through that, we have a very, not just an informed citizenry, but an involved citizenry, which decides and shapes the future of our cities. That is my dream. That is my vision. That is the future that I want to create and co-create along with other people in BNP. That is something I'm very confident of achieving. How many years will it take? I don't know. Sooner the better, of course. But that is a future that I'm not just dreaming of. I'm working towards. I'm crafting. I'm creating. I'm co-creating. I'm shaping. And I'm very, very confident that we'll be able to get there in the not too distant future. A city which is run by citizens.
Lastly, any predictions to go with?
On what?
Anything. What you think we can look forward to?
I don't want to put an exact timeline to it.
And say that you said
no, that's okay. But I don't want to put a timeline to it, but one prediction. Bengaluru will become the best city in the world.
Without a timeline, it's not.
20 to 25 years.
Okay. So 2050. Fair? 26.
2050? Yes. Let's, or for the sake of some nice, this thing, let's keep it 2047.
Okay. Yeah.
By the 100th year of our Indian independence, we'll have one city that is specifically Bengaluru from this country, which will be classified as the best city in the world. Is that a good enough prediction and good enough thing to work towards?
Well, I wrote an article about 10 years ago saying Bangalore as a city will die in 15 years. So, I mean, of course, that was for the water, but you're saying 2047 Bangalore will be the. Okay,
2047, Bengaluru will be a water-rich city.
Water-rich. I mean, if it has to be best, it has to be rich in
Absolutely.
everything. Most importantly,
it has to be rich.
Yeah.
It has to become a green city again. It has to become a water-rich city. It should be an environment-friendly city. It should be a city where the infrastructure is very, very smooth and is
not
very
well
well developed.
What you're saying is it will be.
Rather, it will be. That's what I'm working towards. I'm very confident of achieving. And I'm hoping that I'll have another 25 years of my life still left. I'm almost 50. So I'm going by, let's say, an average expectancy about 75. I want to see Bengaluru as the best city in the world in my lifetime.
It's moved up in urban areas in India to. It's already crossed 80. So, incidentally, I've had futurists and even transhumanists on my show in Future Fast talking about living for at least 120 years. Those who are researchers, to transhumanists talking about living to 1,000 years. So you clearly have more than 50 years.
Anyway, I will go with the current the thing 75. So that's what I'm saying. I will be I'll be 72 by the year 2047 comes, by which time I will make sure that Bengaluru become the best city in the world.
Well, wonderful.
It's not a prediction. It's something that I'm working towards.
It's a wish for sure. But yeah, like to see that as a prediction because I guess every Bangalore would perhaps want it.
Okay, but yeah, let me put it in a different way. Let's not call it a prediction or a wish or anything. Let's call it Srikanth ki guarantee. Huh?
Okay.
on a lighter note.
Yeah, I was about to say the Srikanth politician's guarantee. But
yeah, maybe whether as a politician or as an individual, it's the same guarantee for me. That's something that I'm wishing for. That's something that I'm working towards. That is something that I want to guarantee, and hence that's something that I would be very happy to predict.
Wonderful. Yeah, most often our predictions are what we wish for. But is there something you see that you don't want to happen in future? Something which you last thing. I mean, of course, we just talked about what I wrote as Bangalore will die.
I put it in a positive way, right? See, I don't want Bengaluru to become a water scarce city or a water deficient city. I don't want Bengaluru to become a greenless city, so on and so forth, right? But that's a negative way of putting it. What I'm saying is, in another, let's say 23 years, I want Bengaluru to be water rich. I want Bengaluru to be a non-flooding city. I want Bengaluru to be a green city back again, or a garden city again. I want Bengaluru to be, I don't know what is the opposite of a traffic jam, a moving traffic city. I want Bengaluru to be a pollution-free city, so on and so forth. So let's put it in positive terms. All the negatives that we do not want in Bengaluru, all of us are aware of what we do not want. But let's put it in a positive way and say that this is what we want to achieve, and through that we make Bengaluru the best city in
the world. Well, I really wish you all the best, and also wish what you are hoping to achieve will be a reality, and it's good for all of us. So it only makes sense that we wish for that as well. So thank you so much.
If all of us believe it, if all of us start working towards it, all of us start contributing towards it, and the power of the collective thought and collective efforts, the universe will conspire to make it happen.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Ranju.
Well, with that, for the audience and listeners, you have all the links to follow BNP, Srikanth, and a lot of their social handles and videos. So do follow, do join this movement. So politics can also be fun, which actually affects us, but your participation discussion can make it a lot more positive. And you've seen Srikanth, and you probably got a sense of his uh, IPC as well. For what IPCs, you heard it multiple times. If you didn't register it, you just go back and listen to this. But thank you, and share this across.
This IPC is
share
for
this
sure not Indian
conversation.
Penal Code.
Yes, it is not Indian Penal Code for sure. So thank you once again, and come back for more. And do share your feedback as well. And if you have questions for Srikanth, please do share. And Srikanth, please come and respond to them on our channels also.
Sure.
Srikanth,
Thanks a
you'll
lot,
do that.
Nanju.
Yeah.
Thanks for having
Thank
me
you
here.
again.
Bye.